wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept that you soon will be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, well, you better stop swimming or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are changing. And my fourth grade teacher, Mr. Gomez, is having another one of his earthy, crunchy, kumbaya sing-alongs. We're all sitting Indian style on bad shag carpets and beanbag chairs because some genius at the Board of Ed decided to try something new called an open classroom. So it was out with the desks and chairs, in with the beanbags and the bad shag carpets. The whole thing was such a dismal failure that they honestly almost held us all back. The only thing that worked about it, for me anyway, were the earthy, crunchy, kumbaya sing-alongs. where Mr. Gomez would serenade us on his trusty acoustic guitar. So kiss me and smile for me, tell me that you'll wait for me, hold me like you'll never let me go. Okay, you guys, I know it's early in the show to ask for audience participation. But if you know it, sing along. It's I'm leaving on a jet plane, don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. Oh my God, yeah, you see, he pulled out every classic 60s, 70s singer-songwriter tune he could muster. If I could save time, the first thing that I'd like to do. Okay, that one always slayed me. And I always sat in the front row. I didn't want to miss a thing. I studied his fingers as they danced so effortlessly along the neck of his guitar. And I watched as the veins in his own neck pulsed to the rhythm of the music. I was mesmerized. I felt what I imagined that my parents wanted me to feel at Mass on Sundays. Inspired, transformed, sacred. That little voice inside whispered, "That's for me." You know, that little voice. So that night, I waited up for my dad to get home from his big job in the Big Apple, so I could beg him to please, please, please buy me a guitar. Well, that Christmas I got the greatest gift of my life, my first guitar. I locked myself in my room and I taught myself two chords, two minor chords, E minor and A minor. And I wrote my very first song. Now, I don't know if it's because E minor and A minor are just two of the easiest chords to learn, or if maybe it was because my 10-year-old self was already perversely attracted to their somber, dare I say, depressing quality. Either way, that is exactly what my first composition was, desperately depressing. The title was something like, "Wherever I am, people just don't give a damn." I don't remember exactly how it went. I do, however, remember pouring my whole heart and soul into it, performing it for my mother for the very first time. When I was finished, I childishly expected her to say something like, "What, my darling sweetheart, you wrote a song." Or maybe even, "Laura, are you all right? You sound so sad and jaded." Instead, she listened intently, took a long drag off her umpteenth Kent cigarette of the day, and said, "Oh, I think there's something missing. Right there in the middle. Oh, yes, 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 you need a bridge, darling, a bridge. And it could go something like this. Play along, play along." Watergate, Watergate. Yeah, times were a bit crazy back then, but frankly, so was my mom. Now, I'm pretty sure that she thought that little critique was somehow preparing me for the real world. She was always trying to prepare me for the real world, whether I was ready or not. Because, hey, life can be hard. And in our house, we were never shielded from that fact. So thank you, Mr. Gomez, for teaching me so much more than 4th grade stuff. Thank you for showing me a place where I could buffer myself from at least some of the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune that were heading my way. A sacred place to escape to. The guitar and music. A place where sirens don't sing their song quite so loud and quite so long. I hope I find a place like that. I hope I find a place like that. A place where people don't sing the blues night after night on the TV news. Well, I hope I find a place like that. I hope I find a place like that. It's just another day in the life of the city. Add a little magic and a touch of misery. Place where peace won't be just a word. Children are seen and they're always heard. I hope I find a place like that. I hope I find a place like that. And it's just another day in the life of the city. Add a little magic and a touch of misery. Well, I hope I find a place like that. I hope I find a place like that. Place where sirens don't sing their song. I was born in the middle of a Canadian blizzard. Yes, it's going to be one of those shows. 2 weeks late on a St. Patrick's Day morning. Yay. When they placed me in my mother's waiting arms, she gazed into my newborn eyes, gasped and exclaimed, "It's me." And we were off. My mom never saw me as a child. I don't think she even really saw me as an adult. She just saw me as her. Oh, don't hide your life under a bushel, my darling sweetheart. Say yes to life, Laura. Show up for life, Laura. Laura, you can be anything you want to be. Don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of success. These were some of my mom's standard pep talks, and she's giving me one of my favorites on our way to my first day of real school, the 1st grade. I'm sitting in the passenger seat of our hunter green Ford station wagon, driving along the idyllic streets of my hometown, Darien, Connecticut. This is the town that had the dubious distinction of inspiring such infamous films as The Gentleman's Agreement and Stepford Wives. Very white, very Anglo, very Saxon, very Protestant/Catholic. My blue blood Park Avenue mothers behind the wheel, chain smoking those Kent cigarettes, wearing the latest Diane von Furstenberg. I am sporting a far too girly plaid jumper she insisted that I wear. Jumper was just her sneaky word for dress. Which is why it's no coincidence that my first sentence was in fact, I'm not going to wear that lousy jumper. It was. Well, clearly I lost that battle, and I'm complaining about it, along with a host of other 6-year-old overwhelming concerns. When we pull up to the school, my mother throws it into park, turns to me with a dramatic flair and says, "Oh, Laura, the worry cow might have lived till now, but she died from want of breath. She thought her hay wouldn't last all day, so she worried herself to death. Life's just too short to worry about such things, my darling. Now, carpe diem, jump out of the car, you're already late." She was bigger than life, and she wanted me to be bigger than life, too. She would never ask me to do anything she wasn't willing to do herself. She just said yes to life. She would dive in, convincing people she knew what she was doing, even when she didn't. "You have to fake it till you make it, sweetheart." She was brilliant. She was a who's who of American women, who's who of intellectuals, pretty much the who's who of everything. Before that, she was the valedictorian at the Convent of the Sacred Heart in Manhattan.
Wow.
Yeah. In 1942. And her big dream back then was to be a dress designer. But sadly, that's the only thing she couldn't say yes to. Dress designing was just considered a waste of time and talent. So the nuns and her parents forbid it. And she was sent off to college to get a degree in English, which she does. When she gets out of school, she lands this huge job working for a very famous radio personality back in the day. If it's 1 o'clock, it's Mary Margaret McBride. Mary Margaret McBride was the first lady of radio. She had millions of listeners. She was Oprah before Oprah was Oprah. And this is the 1940s, and my 22-year-old mother is doing all her PR, booking all her guests, people like Jimmy Durante, Eleanor Roosevelt, Harry Truman. So right after that, she convinces the Red Cross up in Boston that she can run their entire organization. She's all really high pressure stuff, and she's just saying yes to all of it. But for all the wrong reasons. Overcompensating, overachieving. That was her MO. Until it all catches up to her. And at the tender age of 24 years old, she suffers a complete and total nervous breakdown. Complete and total. That's how the doctors explained it anyway. My mom didn't do anything halfway, not even a nervous breakdown. So she's carted off to a mental institution in Boston, where the diagnosis is manic depression or bipolar in today's terms. The cure is going to be therapy. First, shock therapy. A whole lot of shock therapy, because that's just what they did back then. Followed by some traditional therapy with a very untraditional butch lesbian psychiatrist named Dr. June Mello. One day during one of their therapy sessions at the institution, Dr. Mello goes rogue. She breaks the therapeutic fourth wall and confesses to my mother that she's madly in love with her. Thank you for understanding that. I'm fairly certain that would throw a lot of women off today. Let alone back in 1950. But not my mom. My mom stays friends with the good doctor for years and years to come. But first she's going to have to spend 3 months in that institution before she's released and sent up to Stowe, Vermont to be a ski bum and get a little extra R&R. But not for long. Right after about a year, she is right back to New York, right back to work. Work would be the first of her many, many addictions. But none of it. Not the work, not the cigarettes, not the booze, not the pills, not even the chocolate was ever going to be enough for my mother.
Truth is, you're never really gonna let me in. The truth is, nothing's ever gonna be enough for you. Well, I must be crazy, thinking it will ever change. And at best it's hazy, and at worst it's out of range. So help me, no one's ever gonna be enough for you.
Into the top secretarial position, working for the managing editor of Time magazine. One afternoon, she steps into a crowded elevator. So fucking weird. My parents would know it. One day she steps into a crowded elevator. And she hears someone laugh, and the hair stands up on the back of her neck. She feels like she knows that laugh. She's about to meet my dad, a scrappy Irish kid from the Bronx who had landed a job at Time magazine when he was 15 because in a crazy twist of fate, he had saved the life of an old man whose son was a big wig at Time. And the rest is history. He would work there for the next 50 years. From a copy boy to an executive in a corner office. He was the American dream. And he was about to make my mom a part of that dream. See, he was already onto her way before the whole elevator thing. He'd caught wind of the gorgeous Gene Tierney lookalike working up on the 25th floor. And it was love at first sight. For him, anyway. For her, not so much. He proposed to her on the second date, to which she replied, "What, are you out of your mind? I don't even know you." My dad was always in the world of Disney and fairy tale romance. And my mother was straight out of Uncle Vanya. Eventually, he wore her down, and she said yes. But she made him promise two things first. Number one, that they would move back up to Stowe, Vermont. And number two, that he would promise to read Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina. She thought all that Russian depression and suffering and adultery and suicide would be just the thing to wake him up. He promised both things would happen. Neither did. Now, not moving up to Stowe, Vermont, that was fairly benign, but not reading Anna Karenina, that was a big one. It frustrated my mother. She really did not feel seen or understood in the way I think she thought she would have had he read it. But him not reading it could have been one of the reasons he was able to stay through all the chaos and the drama to come. Either way, they get married, they start a family. First they have my sister Nancy. Then a couple years later, my mom is pregnant again. But this time, at about 6 months, she tells the doctor that something is not right. She feels like she's going to have the baby early. And of course, he says to her, "You're hysterical. You'll be fine." He's wrong. My mom goes into labor early and gives birth to their only son, who dies right there on their bed. She gets a terrible infection, and then he tells her she'll never have any more kids. Again, he's going to be wrong. And they name him Hugh after my dad's death. They baptize him, and they bury him in the family plot. They don't ever get over it. But luckily, they don't really have that much time to dwell on it right then, because my dad gets word that he's going to be in charge of opening the Canadian edition of Time magazine. So they pack it up and move to Montreal, where it is one grand cocktail party after I need that. With guests like the world-famous conductor, Zubin Mehta, and the soon-to-be Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Trudeau. My mom loved a good party, and she could keep up with the best of them. Alcohol would be the second of her big addictions. And out of all their self-medicating, it would be the worst. The medicinal martinis weren't quite cutting it right now, though, so she was prescribed something called Miltown. Miltown was an anti-anxiety drug that was so popular back in the 1960s that the Rolling Stones wrote a song about it. A little ditty called Mother's Little Helper. So it is in this cocktail of crazy meets amazing that I am conceived. Against all odds, my mother is pregnant again, with me, and with a boatload of fear and anxiety. She's so afraid of losing another child that when she actually does go into labor, every time the doctor walks in the room, she shuts down the contractions. They finally just had to yank my ass out with cold steel forceps. Well, not my ass, my head. My dad's dead. Literally, I came out looking just like a little boxer, all bruised up. Hey, welcome to planet Earth. It's no wonder I was 2 weeks late. I think I was having second thoughts hanging up there in the Pleiades, or wherever it is souls hang out before they descend into matter. It would take my first few years on the planet, along with a big move to Darien, Connecticut, for me to remember why it was I might have been having second thoughts. This Earth shit ain't easy. One morning, I was in my new little bed in our new little house, and I woke up. And it was like God herself hit me over the head and all the lights went back on. Like, I mean, I really woke up. I remember thinking, oh my God, no. How could this have happened? Back in a body on a planet, spinning around in space, having to learn everything all over again from scratch? Walking, talking, peeing, pooing, all of it. I felt trapped and completely overwhelmed. It was so painfully familiar. But what choice did I have? I was either going to be the youngest person ever to commit Harry-Carry, or I was going to have to play the game. So I dragged my new little body up out of bed, dressed it up in a lousy plaid jumper, and took it downstairs, turned the corner to the kitchen to face my latest Earth family. Let loose a heavy sigh and said, every day I walk down the same stairs and I have to look at the same people. And my mother got it. She was the only one who understood my 3-year-old existential pain. And she used to love to tell me that story because right there, that locked it in for her. She really did see herself in me. And just like her, hey, I was gonna speak up. I was gonna call him like I see him. Because you know what? If I had to be here, I was gonna get my needs met, come hell or high water. Find me release, find release, yeah. I'm changing faces, baby. I'm gonna take the time. On a daily basis, I'm gonna turn on the dime. Gonna turn on the dime, yeah. Didn't anybody tell you you gotta make your way? You gotta make your way. Showed up at our door to accuse my mother of lying about my age. It seems her 3-year-old was talking better than some of the 6- and 7-year-olds in the neighborhood, and you know, that's not shocking. My mom didn't believe in baby talk. Nope, she talked to us like grown-ups, sometimes inappropriately, like when I was 8 years old. And she took me to my favorite restaurant, Howard Johnson's. For my beloved fried clams, french fries, coleslaw, and a pickle. Where she spent the whole meal over sharing. Oh, Laura, you know my assistant Meg McVeigh. Well, she's clawing at my heels, determined to steal my job. And I probably shouldn't tell you this, but your father and I had to take out a second mortgage to the pièce de résistance over the hot fudge sundae. And, well, your father, he hardly ever makes love to me anymore. Okay, I knew who Meg McVeigh was because she complained about her all the time. I didn't know what a mortgage was, but 2 of these things sounded bad. And as far as the whole making love part went, I was It was a lot. But I was willing to do whatever it took to make my mom stay. And I got really good at that. My mom had this drunken ritual of having one too many scotch on the rocks, picking a fight with my father, and then running up to her room to pack her bags and leave us once again. So my ritual became running back and forth between them, mediating. I'd start with my dad. But Dad, what about your vows? For richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, until death do you part. And he would say, go tell that to your mother. So Mom, what about your vows? For richer and poorer, in sickness and health, till death do you part. She'd say, go tell that to your father. I'd say, I already did. And on and on and on, back and forth, the whole time, my big sister screaming at me from behind her bedroom door, stop it, Laura, stop it! All she does is cause trouble. Let her leave. But I couldn't stop. She had to stay. I felt like my life depended on it. Eventually, that particular fight would blow over, and my dad would look down at me and say something like, kid, you ought to be a diplomat. Well, I did not become a diplomat, or a therapist, or a lawyer. I did, however, become a songwriter and a life coach. And luckily for me, my family would give me lots of opportunity to practice. Oh God, all I really wanted was for us to find our higher, bigger selves. It did not always work, and I did not always get through. But hey, that never stopped me from trying. I was gonna die. Trying. I always hoped and prayed that you would hear me when I said, lift your head. Oh my Father, don't you think I know your sorrow? You've been hanging all your hopes on some tomorrow. I always hoped and prayed that you would follow when I said lift your head, won't you try more to be something you never wanted anyway. Lift your head, won't you try more and see you are free if you want to be. Oh, sister, we both dream of roads not taken, and we still long for all we have forsaken. I always hoped and prayed we would awaken when I said lift your head, don't you try anymore to be something you never wanted anyway. Lift your head, don't you try more and see you are free if you want to be. Well, it's not like I did not see my sister's point. My mother was a lot of trouble. And I almost did die trying to make her stay. One night when I was in 7th grade, I was downtown with my pals at our favorite local hang, Baskin Robbins. It was a preteen mecca, and we were out spreading our wings. Our moms took turns picking us up, and it was my turn. So, I went over to the payphone, fished out my dime out of my newly minted Jordache jeans, ring, chick, and called my mom. Ring, chick, 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 chick. Ring, chick, 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 chick. Ring, chick, 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 chick. Ring, chick, 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 chick. Ring, chick, is that 7? Yeah, as soon as my mom answered the phone, I could tell she'd been drinking. But I was too embarrassed to pull the plug. So, when she arrived, I jumped in the front seat. My besties, Bonnie, Karen, and Alexa, all hopped in the back. When my mom pulled out, she proceeded to sideswipe at least 4 parked cars. I turned around to see my friends cowering in the back. When I turned around again, she was swerving into the oncoming lane. So I grabbed the wheel and pulled us back over the double yellow lines. I had to keep doing that the whole way home. Grab the wheel and pull us back over the double yellow lines. I didn't dare look back at my friends again. I was mortified. We never spoke of it, but it never surprised them if I made a hasty retreat from one of their slumber parties, especially if my dad was working late. I would call to check on my mom, and if she didn't answer, I would run home, picturing her dead at the bottom of the stairs. Usually, she was just drunk and passed out on the couch. She was trying so hard to be a stay-at-home mom, but all it was doing was making her drink more and rant more. Oh, I'm a horrible mother! I should have never become a mother! She had to go back to work, plain and simple. So, she did what she always did. She overcompensated and overachieved her way into becoming the first female picture editor at all of Time Incorporated. They had started in the 70s this magazine called Money, and it was in trouble and about to fold. My mom got in there, worked her magic, and as most of you are probably aware, Money magazine is still with us today. She made anything seem possible. So, when the word came out that girls could try out for Boys Little League, well, my dad and I made a beeline down there to the tryouts where I was in like Flynn. Starting first baseman, sweet spot on the batting lineup, bam! First girl in Boys Little League. But hey, this did not go over very well with the boys. So they would either beat me in the head with the ball or corner me, kiss me. I think this was my first real lesson in the nature of human relations. Sports gave me so much validation that I added volleyball, basketball, softball, and ski team. But I still couldn't resist stealing away in the middle of practice to spy on the magical world of theater unfolding inside the school auditorium. I had played Wendy in my 6th grade production of Peter Pan, and pardon the pun, but I was hooked. So I dropped basketball. Too much running. Then I dropped volleyball and softball. Too many lesbians. I know. So rehearsals replaced the practices after school, and it was all such a godsend, a glorious distraction from all the crazy stuff happening at home. My big sister Nancy had already moved out. She decided to follow in my mom's footsteps as a ski bum up in Stowe, Vermont, just without the complete and total nervous breakdown part. And my parents were working long hours commuting back and forth from Darien, Connecticut to New York, but not necessarily on the same train. Left to her own devices, my mom would hop on the bar cart, get drunk, pass out, miss her stop, and end up in New Haven, Connecticut. The end of the line, literally and figuratively. Most men would never put up with any of this, but 20 years into their marriage, my dad was still Disney, and my mother was Anna Karenina. His way of coping was sticking his head in the sand. My way, at the age of 15, was to drag his ass to the National Council on Alcoholism. Well, one miserable, horribly disastrous, failed intervention later, my mother storms out of the room screaming, "How dare you!" and pours herself another scotch. Oh. A few weeks later, she's off to do a big photo shoot for Money Magazine with the actress Elkie Summer. Look at your encyclopedia. While they are waiting for their flight, my mom begins to get extremely agitated and paranoid. She keeps saying that the CIA is following her and that she's got to get away. So she does. My father gets a call that she's turned up in Montreal in a hotel, wandering around the lobby in a bathrobe, picking cigarette butts up out of ashtrays and smoking them. That's when I found out about my mom's first complete and total nervous breakdown, on the eve of her second. So my dad dropped me at my best friend Bonnie's house and went up to Canada to collect her. She was brought out in a straitjacket and taken home. Home for us to deal with. Now, I'd had a lot of practice dealing with my mom, but this was different. This was devastating and very scary. I didn't really know what to do. So I just did what I always did. I started managing things. I called my mom's big sister, my aunt Nancy, who came to move in with us just for a week or two to help out a little. And then slowly, over time, my mom began to recover. She stopped drinking, went to AA, and as the fog lifted, it revealed that she had completely and totally sabotaged her. I spent most nights by her bedside, counseling, consoling, championing, cajoling, coaching, all the C words. Whatever it took to keep her together. When of course I could have used some of that myself, but I knew that if I could make my mom okay, then I'd be okay. And all I could see was that my mom's eyes were the saddest eyes I'd ever seen. Some days are harder than others. This is a fact of life. And I just spoke to my mother. You know my father's wife for some nights are harder than others. You know the kind I need. I think the eyes of my mother are the saddest eyes I've ever seen. And she said to me, "I'm older than I've ever been. Look at all these lines in my skin. And I'm taken to smoking again. will turn. Full throttle. Meetings every day, sponsoring people left and right. And now, instead of taking everybody else's inventory, it was finally time to take her own. And remember, the worry cow might have lived till now? Well, now it was a bunch of AA slogans and the good old Serenity Prayer. Laura, remember, easy does it. It's one day at a time. You have to live and let go and let God. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, it's a good thing she taught me that prayer, because I was going to need to accept the new reality that now that my mother did not have a full-time job, she was going to need a project. And that project was going to be me. All that time and attention I was aching for earlier, I was about to get. Just not in the way I had hoped. It turns out my mother was determined to turn me into a lady. Or to be more specific, a debutante. Now that I was 18 years old, I was to have my coming out. The first version, anyway. It was a tradition on my mom's side of the family. Our blue blood ancestors had sailed over from England to America, where they were greeted by the Matinacock Indians. And they bought Oyster Bay, Hempstead, Long Island, and some lower parts of Manhattan for a grand total of 5 redcoats, some beads, and a bunch of other stuff nobody remembers. This highway robbery would be part of my family history. They would have me be one of only 50 girls in the world presented that year at the International Debutante Ball at the Waldorf Astoria. But getting me there was going to be no easy task. I played sports for years, and it showed. My voice teacher constantly nagged me about my comportment. Oh, Laura, your voice is divine, but you walk like a stevedore. Now, I didn't know what a stevedore was, but it didn't sound good. So I looked it up. Stevedore, one who stuffs, a sort of dock worker who loads and unloads cargo. Nice. And my mom used to love to remind me that I ate like a truck driver. Oh, Laura, if you continue to eat in this manner, you will not be allowed to attend the ball and be presented. To which I would say, really? Thanks, Mom. And continue shoveling my dinner. Because you see, she knew that I knew that she knew. That this meant way more to her than it did me. Anyway, the next thing I know, I got a pair of pumps strapped on my feet and a stack of books piled on my head, and I'm traipsing around the living room while my mother looks on, horrified. But hopeful. Just in time, I'm deemed ready to attend my first pre-party of the season at the Tavern on Green in Central Park. It's here I meet the Texan Debs. These are the Debs for new money, AKA the ones who still have money. We were from old money, AKA barely scraping by. This whole thing was a real stretch for my parents, but my mother was hell-bent on holding on to her blue blood roots. She took it all very seriously, as did those Texan devs. So when you're presented, you have to do this very grand curtsy with your big dress. And it goes something like this. Well, the Texan devs, I'm sure I don't knock shit over, the Texan devs, they did something like this. All the way down, it took about 5 minutes. It was all very grandiose. They took it too seriously. The rest of us, we were just along for the ride. We got to party in places like Studio 54, drive around in limos, stay at all the finest hotels in New York. My God, once I realized how fun it was going to be, I gladly suffered through the lines, the interminable lines of dignitaries waiting to kiss my marriageable little hand. Being presented into society is just an upper crusty way of calling out, "Come and get it, boys!" I wore a long white wedding dress, long white gloves. I had a civilian escort and a military escort. We floated around in a kind of dream world where time stood still. If you'd walked into that Waldorf Astoria ballroom, you would have thought nothing had changed over the last 100 years. Dukes and duchesses, princes and princesses, 5-star generals and the like, all bowing and curtsying to yours truly. One particular 5-star general's wife took a real shine to me. "Oh, Laura, we could use more strong women like you in West Point." Oops, I guess my inner stevedore was showing. Because this wasn't the point at all. The goal was to land a military husband, not land in the military. So her husband, the general, agrees and invites me to West Point. To which my inner truck driver said, "What are you, friggin' out of your mind?" No, I obviously didn't say that. I politely declined because just like my mom, I had big dreams, and they sure as hell did not include marriage or the military. Life's too short, my darling. Carpe diem. So I was off to college to get a degree in drama. Yeah, you would have thought I'd had enough drama by now. But this was going to be the drama of my own making. I was finally ready to be selfish in a good way. So I packed up my trunk, picked up my out-of-tune guitar. James, help me out. I knew this was going to happen, by the way. But you're just going to have to deal with an out-of-tune guitar. Picked up my guitar, and I crossed over the threshold into womanhood. Afraid. You got to go on forward with those plans that you made. No, you cannot fool yourself anymore. And furthermore, why would you want to anyway? You got to carpe diem, gotta call them like you see, you gotta live just like you know you're headed for the mausoleum. By the way, what is it you're waiting for? Time stands still for no man, don't you see? And do you really want to be the one to test that well-known theory? You got to carpe diem, gotta come like you see, you gotta live just like you know you're headed for the mausoleum. Yeah. Looks like my song has reached an end. Hope you still consider me a friend. All I ask is that you pass it on, 'cause just You got to carpe diem, got to call 'em like you see 'em, got to live just like you know you're headed for the mausoleum. Or maybe if you're really lucky, the wax museum. Yes, I was off to get a great education, finally with no one to take care of but myself. There was just still this one little unfortunate piece of drama gnawing at me. The whole sexuality thing. You know, I had done my fair share of dating and fooling around with guys. And frankly, I just didn't get it. I think I'd actually had more fun with some of our household appliances. Okay, I guess I have to explain. One night, when I was about 11, I was talking to my mom, watching her brush her teeth. She used an electric toothbrush. And for its size, this thing packed a lot of punch. It vibrated so intensely, your hand got all tingling. So I put 2 and 2 together. Literally! I guess you could say it was my first real relationship. My little friend, my guilty pleasure. And boy, did I feel guilty. But not enough to cease and desist. And don't worry, it was always over some kind of a garment of some kind, which should let you know how crazy strong this thing is. Anyway, as time wore on and my little friend wore out, I would be blessed with finding yet another overachieving household appliance, the world's most overactive vibrating blow dryer. Hey, cheap appliances are dumb luck. I willingly upgraded, and this one even got to go off to college with me. But to be fair to the guys, maybe I didn't really get it because I hadn't really gotten it. Get it? All my friends had. So I set about finding the right guy to relieve me of my maidenhood. Hey, I had offers, but I wanted it to be special. The problem was, I kept on longing to spend. Hear this thing. I kept on longing to spend. Don't tell me that I picked just there. All right, let's try that again. The problem was, I kept on longing to spend all my free time with my new friends. Female friends. Snuggling up in the dorm rooms, watching Luke and Laura unravel. Hating their stupid boyfriends. And then stealing away to my room to write them a song. No matter how many guys I dated over the next few years, the girl thing just was not going away. And this, my friends, was not part of the plan at all. I felt blindsided and really pissed off. I most sincerely, unequivocally, did not want to be gay. So now, gotta fix this. Sorry, guys. So now, I just put even more focus on getting rid of my virginity the traditional way. Remember how I said I wanted it to be special? Well, it would be special. It would be with a guy named Jim. I met him at 19 years old, reporting for duty as a newly hired cop on Martha's Vineyard. He was a real cop. He fell for me in my little uniform with my braids sticking out of the back of my summer cop baseball cap. My weapons were my radio and my trusty ticket book. Now, they wanted to send me to a sort of Cliff Notes version of a police academy to train me to carry a gun. But even I knew that probably wasn't such a good idea. I spent most summers on Martha's Vineyard doing everything from chambermaid to waitress to cop to cab driver. By the time I was 21, I was only driving cabs for another lovely butch lesbian named Shirley. Oh, Shirley. She used to love to flirt with me. So, I told her all about my mission to surrender my maidenhood to Jim, who was now working as an undercover narcotics cop up in Provincetown. She saunters up to me, gives me the once-over, says, "Oh, please, Coyle, who are you kidding?" "You are so gay." Then she dares me to go to the Pied Piper. The Pied Piper is the biggest lesbian hangout in Provincetown. And to prove I'd been there, I got to show her their official stamp, which, as it happens, was a little pink vagina. Oh, and there was another person concerned with a little pink vagina. My pink vagina. My mother, who was totally onto me. She had chased me down the driveway, prophylactic in hand, crying out, "Laura, I know what you're up to. I want you to be careful. Use protection." So, with my mother's rubber in the glove box of my little Ford Escort, I arrive in P-Town to complete my fucking mission. I tell Jim all about Shirley's dare. And he wants to come with me. So, okay, we're not even in there 5 minutes when I notice his fly is wide open. What? Fix your fly. He tries, he can't, it's broken. So I send him packing to change his pants. Even me, alone in a lesbian bar. I'm curious, a little excited, but mostly petrified that somebody might actually approach me, which of course they do. Some nice-looking gal starts to come up to me, and before she can even say anything, I blurt out, "I'm not gay, I'm just visiting!" Just in the nick of time, Jim swoops in and rescues me. We go back to his place. And at the geriatric age of 21 years old, with a prophylactic my mother is forced upon me in a stricken state, in one of the gayest places on planet Earth, I would finally give it up to Jim. But I gotta tell you, it was not exactly how I imagined it. Somewhere in our youthful foreplay, I ended up on top. And what can I say? Mission accomplished. Maidenhood gone. And still, no fireworks and no clear answers. So, a few more years of trying to be straight. And 3 marriage proposals later, yes, 3, including one from Jim, there was still something missing for me and my little pink vagina. We were entertained, but not impressed. We still didn't understand what the big effing deal was. Well, we finally understand when we're with a woman for the first time. Yeah, you know what? You get it? Finally something to compete with my household appliances. So now I understand what all the fuss is about, but I'm afraid nobody else is going to understand. I'm pretty sure my thoroughly modern mother will be the one to take it all in stride, and then it'll be my Irish Catholic father that completely flips out. But that's not what happened at all. My dad told me how much he loved me, and that he just didn't want my life to be hard. As if hiding out, lying about yourself, and staying in the closet is harder. And my mom, as usual, was already on to me, and she also, most sincerely, unequivocally, did not want me to be gay. Remember, I was her person, and she did not want to compete with any other woman for my affection, ever, period. But I'm afraid that ship had sailed, and as much as I hated to admit it, being with women just made so much more sense. I finally found my home. And logistics. And I need a guitar tech. It should be you. I finally found my home. Everybody deserves to have that feeling. And finally, it was my turn. In a lot of ways, it was so much harder. You know how we say guys aren't necessarily all that great at communicating? Sorry, guys. Well, let me tell you something. Women excel at it. Never-ending processing sessions. In mind-numbing detail. All of our damaged pieces and parts. All the while trying not to destroy the fun pieces and parts. For those of you who are not privy to lesbian lingo, there is this thing called lesbian bed death. Need I say more? But I wasn't going to let that happen. So everything took a back seat to my relationships. I gave up so many opportunities. I said no to any job that took me out of New York because it meant leaving my latest girlfriend. And if I did get a job in New York, and there was the slightest hint of success, well, I couldn't run fast enough. I could not reconcile being gay and being authentic out in the world. So much so that when one of the biggest theater critics in New York City came to see me play Judy Garland off-Broadway, took me to lunch to tell me he thought I would be the next big thing on Broadway, I remember thinking, oh, no. No can do, can't risk that. And I didn't do another musical for years, which infuriated my mother. Oh, my darling, please, don't hide your light under a bushel. Oh, don't be afraid of success. All of that. She started acting like my manager, calling me every day, grilling me about my career. One day she calls me. Laura, great news. I've arranged a private meeting for you with Mike Nichols. Mike Nichols? What? No, Mom, no. I wasn't ready for that. No. And I wasn't going to repeat her mistakes. My mom always put her career first. I work, therefore I am, was her mantra. And I saw what that cost her. Plus, she didn't understand that I needed to heal some things in myself and with her, way more than I needed to make it in my career. So I shut her down. And she gave up. I mean, she really gave up. I called her the next day and something was not right. She was different. A few days later, my father called me to confirm something's wrong with your mom. Many months and many tests later, we found out that she suffered a series of what they call subclinical strokes right here. And that physically, she's okay. But her personality, all that brilliance, everything that made her my mother was gone. Along with any chance of having a healthy adult relationship with her. And I blamed myself. I was haunted by the thought that if I just said yes and let her run the whole show, that she would have stayed. You know, she wouldn't have checked out. But I didn't. And she did. So, I pinned all my hopes on my girlfriends. They were going to heal me. It would take a while, but I finally got my wish. It would come in the form of the two women I'd been with the longest. I was living here in Los Angeles with one of them when my New York ex came to visit, and as soon as they met, the karmic sparks started. Oh, I saw it coming. But even though I saw it coming, I still was not prepared for when the truth came out. Over the next days and weeks, those sparks turned into a raging wildfire. You know how they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger? Well, I was about to get a chance to find out if that was actually true. But that journey from fuck you to thank you was a doozy. Every thought of them together was torturous. And the hardest part was probably that the whole time they were getting together, they kept telling me how much they both still really loved me. Yeah, thanks. They kept telling me they love me, and I just thought, really? If this is love, you can have it. If this is love, I understand why people kill themselves. I was in shock. Then I was despondent. Then I was just really pissed off. No, I was more than pissed off. I had a kind of blind rage that I want to believe only lives in other people. The kind that kills. If not them, then me. Yeah, mercifully, the rage subsided but it was replaced with numbness, actual numbness. I would wake up in the middle of the night and my whole body would be like asleep, numb and tingling, like I was almost paralyzed. I mean, I know I can be a bit of a hypochondriac, but I really thought I had MS. I mean, all this energy was stuck. I was stuck. Something had to give. These two soulmates had brought me face to face with all my old mother abandonment shit times 2. Wow. Really? I thought I dealt with all that. I'd gone to every meeting, ACOA, CODA, Al-Anon. I'd had years of therapy. And here it was again. I had to forgive my mother. And I was going to have to forgive those two. So I heard my mom's voice say, "You have to fake it till you make it, sweetheart." So I sent those two love and light. Every day through gritted teeth. Until one day, it felt real. I woke up one morning and a genuine wave of love and affection welled up inside me for those two women. And of course, the first thing I wanted to do was crush it! But this is what I had been waiting for. And like all forgiveness, it was more for me than it was for them. So I went over to my old apartment where they were now living to say, "I forgive you." The next morning, I walked out of my little guest house into the light of a perfect Sunday morning, and something had lifted. I whispered, "Hello, Sunday morning," and I got my next song out of it. Hello, Sunday morning. Sometimes the time stands still, and nothing fills the longing in a heart with time to kill. Hello, Sunday morning. Hello, Sunday morning. Hello, Sunday morning. Yes, I guess I'm doing fine. The clouds are slowly going, and I spy a new skyline. Hello, Sunday morning. Hello, Sunday morning. Hello, Sunday morning. Don't you think it's kind of strange how today, without a warning, the winds began to change? And though I never saw it coming, and I didn't think it would ever leave, now in the din of distant drumming, I think I hear the chorus of my release. Hello, Sunday morning. I want to thank you in advance, 'cause when Sunday evening's dawning, may I have that dance. Hello, 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 Sunday morning. I have this theory about fear. I call it new scary versus old scary. And it came out of years and years of coaching people and seeing a pattern. Old scary is so very familiar. It's sticky and it's heavy, and yet somehow we can feel safe in it. But this is the kind of safe that has so many people on antidepressants. But new scary, that's what everybody is longing to step into. But because it's so unfamiliar, and because our little inner saboteurs create so many obstacles for us, it sometimes feels just easier and safer to stay in old, familiar, uncomfortable, predictable, soul-sucking scary. I never realized how much space my mother's stories were taking up, especially that abandonment one, and just how afraid I was to really look at them and let them go. But if I hadn't, I would have been stuck over there in old scary. What a waste. My ex-girlfriends forced me out of the old and into the new. New scary was going to mean making up a new story, one with more space, more music, more love, more me. Bring on new scary. No, you don't necessarily know what's coming, but there's a good chance it's a hell of a lot better than the same old shit. And you know what? Old scary isn't going anywhere. It's always there, waiting in the wings. You happen to miss it. But new scary means new possibilities and new life. Life. I just think that is such a weird word, life. Has that ever happened to you where you've repeated a word over and over again and it just loses its meaning? That happened to me once with the word life. I was taking a run one day overthinking the meaning of life. And all of a sudden, the word itself just appeared in my mind's eye, spelled out, and I just thought, oh, okay, well maybe it actually stands for something. That would be helpful. Love in full expression. Love. Now, that I understand. I love words. I love finding messages like that in words. I think of it as cosmic clues, little winks from the universe. One day years ago, I read the word dogma, and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, I saw it backwards, and it reads, am God. Seriously, the opposite of dogma is am God. I don't think that's a coincidence. Call that God energy, whatever you want. Call it the universe, the light, Gaia, Allah, Buddha, Jesus, Shakti, Shiva, Brahma, Muhammad. Maybe just call it love. Whatever it is, everything is it. And it's all happening right now. Right now, I am Laura Coyle in this particular bodysuit, dreaming up this endlessly mysterious human experience with my more extended Earth family. I'm on a sojourn, a stopover. I have a lease on life, not a mortgage. Another word I find interesting, mortgage. The word for death is in the word mortgage, mortis mortem, as if to say, we never really own anything. 20 years before my mom at her lease, lost her lease on life. She suffered that series of strokes, and for all intents and purposes, she died. My Disney prince of a dad took care of her all those years. And when she finally passed, he lost both his wife and his purpose. He only lasted about another 3.5 years, and then he was gone. His last day on planet Earth was Father's Day. I picture my mom waiting there to greet him on the other side. She's back to looking just like that gorgeous girl he fell in love with all those years ago up on the 25th floor. But this time, and much to his chagrin, she extends to him a heavenly copy. Whatever gifts I have been given, and all the skills I've practiced and honed all these years, this whole life story I'm writing is also going to just disappear someday, just vanish into thin air. And depending on the day, that either feels really freaky or kind of a relief. But what also feels really freaky, but with no sense of relief, is that quantum physics has proven you can't kill energy, which is all we really are. So that means that whatever it is that is animating me and you and everything that ever was, is, or shall be can never die. Which is an exhausting thought. I've always envied people who think it's just lights out, that there's nothing after we die. No reincarnation, no afterlife, no heaven of any kind. Because frankly, all of those choices overwhelm me. Because they all just mean endless and endless beingness and beingness into eternity and infinity and beyond. One thing I do like about that thought, though, is that maybe my parents are out there somewhere watching over me, waiting for me. My favorite philosopher, Alan Watts, says that the earth is a place of wonder and mystery, and that it just peoples itself, much the way an apple tree apples. We just keep on going and going, wandering and wondering. I wonder if on that snowy St. Patrick's Day morning, when my mom gazed into my newborn eyes and said, "It's me," if maybe she wasn't right after all. I wonder if she's proud of me and if I'm saying yes to life enough for her. I wonder if she's finally chilling out, or if she's up in heaven saying yes to the afterlife, working as one of God's top advisors. I wonder if she knows that I forgave her and that I know she did the best she could, that I love her. And I'm so grateful to both of my parents for everything they gave me, the most important thing being love. Sometimes just out of the blue, one of the four of us would call out, "Love feast!" And then we would all huddle together, hugging and humming in unison like some kind of a chant. Whatever madness swirled around our little Connecticut existence, love swirled around with it too. I wonder if they have love feasts in heaven. I wonder if I will ever stop wondering. When she goes to the top of the mountain, woman, she sees God there at the top of the mountain. And God says, "Woman, what are you doing up here? Don't you know you got it all down there? Why do you people think you gotta climb so many mountains? So many mountains, so many mountains." And when she goes to the bottom of the ocean, woman, she sees God there at the bottom of the ocean. And God says, "Woman, what are you doing down here? Don't you know you got it all up there? Why do you people think you gotta swim so many oceans? So many oceans, so many oceans, yeah."
in your eyes. Watch my spirit rise.
Yeah, but I'm not in a rush. No? Okay. I know, it's like not a good idea.
When your walls start to fall away, that's when you can see right through the music in my soul. Watch your spirits rise. And there's only one thing, baby. That's the way we make each other. When we're this way, baby, say you stay. Hold my hand, don't let go. We're in for quiet.